Hey everybody, welcome to the Cow Church on Wheels. We are coming to you at 8 o'clock Central Time. Of course, I'm out on the Eastern Time Zone now, and this morning at 10:30, I will be with Pastor Philip at Grace Fellowship in North Augusta, South Carolina. And we'll be here tonight at 7, Monday and Tuesday at 7, and then Wednesday evening over with Pastor Virgil Bynum in Sally, South Carolina. Wonderful group of people at Harvest of Love Fellowship. So, and then Friday evening with my good friend Bishop Steve Rich there in Thomasville, North Carolina. And next Sunday we'll be on the Eastern Time again. I will be in Perry, South Carolina. Oh, yes, Perry, South Carolina at Perry Baptist Church. So Sunday morning, Sunday evening there with Pastor Bernie and the congregation. So if you can make any of those meetings, I would love to see you. Be sure and let me know you're there if you're able to come, and thank you again for sharing these videos around. I do have service this morning, so I've got to expedite this. I want to continue in this vein of thought on mental disorders, because in the natural, mental instability is a real thing with many people. There are a lot of psychotic issues, depression. We saw that poverty is a mental illness, and that mental illness is not just one facet, and you don't just limit it to one thing, but a mental illness is when you become impaired in your concept, impaired in the way you portray your perception. Mental illness is a perception that is handicapped in some way or another. And so we dealt with the mental illness of depression. We've dealt with the mental illness of poverty. And today I want to deal very briefly with the mental illness of anxiety. And, a lot of people can readily quote Philippians, the 4th chapter, I believe it is, where the Apostle Paul said, "Be anxious for nothing." Now, to be anxious and to worry are two different things. I know, a lot of times people quote, and I've done it for years until I recently looked at it because I, like so many other people, just assumed because King James has it in his translation, that's got to be the Word of God. Well, that's not what Jesus said. Jesus didn't say, "Don't worry." That Greek word is translated, "Don't be anxious." So there is a difference between worrying about something. You do not have a mental illness because you worry about something, okay? Anxiety, on the other hand, is worry on steroids. Worry compels you to make a change, to be adamant, to see something gets better. But anxiety is when you are just frozen in your tracks. And so, do you see how all this ties back to that mental illness of poverty? And I think this week here at Grace Fellowship, I'm going to go deeper into that teaching on the illness of poverty. But worry again, that's natural. And I'm going to show you, because I always taught against worry. But I want to show you something I had never seen before. But see, and according to psychologists and therapists, about 30% of adults deal with anxiety disorders somewhere, sometime in their life. Now, sad to say, that also happens in believers, of all people, who ought to not be anxious for anything, fall into that category as well. See, worry is temporary. You know, there's a situation with a family member. There's a situation with the COVID. You worry about it. Worry should prod you, should move you to your problem-solving skills to address that concern. Anxiety, on the other hand, is very persistent. Even when concerns are unrealistic, anxiety makes it look like it's real. So when you worry, yeah, you feel uneasy or overly concerned about something. You really may worry about health or money or this or that, but worry ought to propel you to make a change. But if you're anxious about it, it means you're trying to figure out how to live in the problem. Worry propels you to get out of the problem. Anxiety teaches you to live with the problem. And how many believers have said, well, I'll just live with it here because when I get to heaven, it'll all be better. God wants it better right now, but you and I have to instigate it. And I'm seeing you guys chime in. Thank you again so very much. But again, this is just a brief excerpt, but many people beat themselves up, especially believers. Well, I shouldn't worry about that. But do you realize that worry is actually a trigger that's instilled in us by creation? We hear the word worry and always give it a negative connotation. But worry is like a GFI plug, and many of you will know what that is. In modern construction, they put a GFI plug around your kitchen sink, your bathroom lavatory, because if any shock hazard can happen, it shuts that plug off. That's what worry is. It's like God built in a GFI. He didn't say get anxious about it. He said, okay, right here is where you initiate your problem-solving skills. And so I thank God that He gave us that little trigger that says, okay, this is a concern. What are we going to do about it? And the Word says He'll always give seed to the sower. Why do you sow seed? To get rid of the thing that caused you to worry. So, see, there is a mental illness of anxiety, people that just freeze up. But when you're truly healthy in your thinking, you see a situation that concerns you and you begin to initiate your problem-solving skills through the Word of Christ and the authority of the believer that God has already given you. And so there is, and I cannot stress it enough, but there is a spiritual anxiety in so many believers. So that word anxious that Paul said to in his letter to the church at Philippi, be anxious for nothing. That word anxious in the original language means don't be distracted. Don't be sidetracked. Don't get out of focus by anything. Well, Mark, how do I know if I'm just worried or if I'm anxious? You're anxious if all you focus on is the problem. You're worrying if you focus on the solution to the problem. See, it's really simple. And so, again, and I know they meant well. I know the translators meant well, but sometimes they screw up people where we've got people saying, oh, don't worry. You know, that's not of God. Worry is not of God. Worry is a God-instilled GFI trigger in the believer. And some of my pastor friends may not agree with me, but I believe if they too would see what that word, how it was mistranslated, we'll see that, hey, there is a concern here. there is a concern. Why do people pray about things? Because that trigger called worry said, hey, there's a problem. Let's go to the Father about it. So I don't want you to, oh, God, let me worry. Now, don't be goofy with it. But there is a natural element of worry because, see, here's the positive side of worry. Okay? Here's the positive side of worry. I chose to drive here to South Carolina this week. And driving down, I think I was, I don't know, coming through Birmingham or Memphis or somewhere, and I was watching my gas gauge. I never like it to get below 50 miles because it starts sucking trash off the bottom of the tank. And I started looking at it. I was out on a highway where there were no stations in sight. So when I saw it, that GFI trigger kicked in. Worry. Now, worry doesn't mean, oh God, what am I going to do? Worry made me alert. I need to get gas. So I didn't stress out. I didn't start calling AAA. See, anxiety would have already seen me broken down at the side of the road trying to hail a driver going by to take me to get a gas can to walk all the way back. That's anxiety. Worry says, okay, start looking for a station. That's a problem-solving skill. Okay? And so I'm saying this, and it is so elementary, but it's so pertinent to our everyday life. Don't beat yourself up because you're concerned about something. Worry actually just reveals that you care. Anxiety reveals you've accepted it. You just don't know how to live with it yet. And that can drive you nuts. And so, again, worry, it can lead you to solve problems. It ought to motivate you. Anxiety freezes you, but worry ought to motivate you. Worry actually protects us from feeling bad later for not initiating the solution to something. Okay? So if you feel like I'm in something, I don't think I'll ever get out of it, you're anxious. That is a mental illness of anxiety. It has paralyzed your potential. Worry activates your potential. Anxiety paralyzes your potential. God help us get this. So my word of faith, friends, that's not a negative confession. You ought to be happy you found out something that was called evil is actually something God said, hey, don't be anxious. Don't be paralyzed by what you're going through. Don't be distracted from the solution. Don't get out of focus on your destiny. Be anxious for nothing. Worry is a God-given trigger for you. And so when Jesus said, do not worry, bull, that's not what he said. He said, hey, don't be paralyzed about what am I going to eat? What am I going to drink? What am I going to wear? Don't be paralyzed by any of those things. But in all these things, God, if he can watch over the sparrow, if he can watch over the lily of the field, he'll take care of you. He'll take care of me. And so, Mark, I still don't know if I'm worried or if I'm anxious. Well, if you're anxious, again, you're just trying to learn how to live with what you've been dealt. You don't look for a solution anymore. You just look for comfort and people who will comfort you. See, anxious people want comforters. People who worry want problem solvers. in their lives. And so if you're anxious, you just don't have any motivation. And now, according to clinical psychology, you are borderline depressed. Do you see how all these mental illnesses work together? So the mental illness of poverty will lead to the mental illness of anxiety, and the mental illness of anxiety will lead to the mental illness of depression. And so, well, Mark, I really still don't know. Am I just worried, or am I anxious? If you're worried, you're praying, Father, what's my seed that I sow that will command the earth to give up the freedom you left for me in it? That's if you're worried. You're praying, what's my seed? If you're anxious, you don't even pray about what's my seed. You'll say things like, well, if God gave it to me, I guess he knows I can live with it. Don't smoke that dope. And please don't listen to any numbnut that teaches that crap. Jesus bore all of that, okay? I'm not denying people go through things. We go through things. But everything we go through is a testimony that God's power brought us through it, and it gives hope to those that are anxious in their problems. I'm not saying if you're anxious in something, you can't be set free from it. I'm saying no one can set you free from anxiety but you. Now do you see why on the secular side, the clinics medicate people with anxiety? But no pill is going to fix your future. You have to fix your future by today. Just say, you know what? God, forgive me. I have learned to live beneath what you put in my heart. And today I want to re-engage. You know, on those GFI plugs, if that breaker does flip, all you got to do is press the reset button on that GFI plug, and it's back to doing what it was created to do. I ask you today to press that reset button. You know, in the Bible, the woman with the issue of blood, she was worried, but she was never anxious. See, worry initiated her to solve a problem. Remember, she had that issue of blood for 12 years, and the Bible says she had spent all that she had. In other words, this seer, this sorcerer, this doctor, she had spent all the money that she had trying to get better. So she's a problem solver. Okay? She's a problem solver. She never got anxious in it. She never learned to live with the problem. And you know the rest of the story. She said, if I could just but touch the hem of his garment, I know I'll be made whole. She pressed through the crowd, touched the hem of his garment, and boom, she was made whole. Anxiety never ruled that woman, but her problem-solving skills by the God-initiated GFI, cold worry, she began to initiate. But on the other hand, you look at Elijah. Elijah was clicking along good. 450 prophets of Baal were slain by the sword. He prophesied there won't be rain on the earth until I say so. He's feeling high. And then Jezebel got the news about what Elijah had done, and she threatened to kill him. Now, that should have triggered worry to solve a problem. But instead, it triggered anxiety, and he crawled up in a ball underneath a terebinth tree and prayed that he might die. That's anxiety. And God brought him out of that anxiety. I'm not saying if you're anxious, it's hopeless. I'm saying you have to get up and eat and take water. You have to get up and start renewing your mind reliving the dreams. And good morning, you guys. I'm seeing you chime in. I get focused on what I'm teaching, and I don't mean to ignore but you're listening to this to hear the word. So I thank you for that. But you and I have every right to press that reset button. The woman with the issue of blood did not have to. Elijah did. Both of them came out okay. But Elijah went through more hell than necessary because he became anxious. So either level, worry or anxiety, there is a way out. If you're anxious today, begin to make yourself think beyond where you are and what you have. Begin to think beyond it. Because remember, anxiety, in its purest definition, is trying to learn how to adjust to live where you are with what you have. So if you want to reset that spiritual GFI, if you want to reset that, start making yourself think beyond where you are and what you have right now. Begin to get motivated. There has to be a solution outside of your means. There has to be a solution. Do you remember the prophet that went to the woman and she was crying out, my husband is dead, the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons. Elijah didn't say, I'll be holding you up in prayer and believe in God. He didn't pull that crap the way we do in church today. No, you know what he told her? He said, what do you have in the house? In other words, you're sitting on the solution. You just can't see it. And some of you guys are needing to hear this today. You are sitting in a house on your answer. It's in your ability. Okay? But you have to begin to think outside of where you are right now. Begin to ask God, what is my seed? Show me what I have in my house. Because the earth will obey the seed. Be anxious for nothing. Stop being distracted on all the goodness God has called you to. I hope this helped you guys today. Don't forget to go on to the website, markshellministries.com, and the new USB flash drive that's got, 150 some teachings on it. Every series that's on the website is on that flash drive. You can download it right there. It'll take quite a few megabytes to do, but if you want us to send you a flash drive with it already loaded on there, check it out online. Think about becoming a partner. I will see you guys next Sunday morning, 8 o'clock Central. One more time, 8 o'clock Central next Sunday as well. And to my friends here on the East, just hopefully I'll get to see you at one of the services. You all have a blessed day, and I will see you next week.